Welcome, everyone. We're going to dive right into a pretty radical idea from our source material today. What if history wasn't random? What if the huge events that shape our world weren't accidents at all, but part of a meticulously designed structure? We're going to look at some numbers and connections that suggest our entire timeline might just have a hidden blueprint.
Think about it. We usually see history as just one thing happening after another, right? A battle over here, a new empire over there, a calendar gets changed. It all seems so disconnected. But what if those events are actually deliberate anchor points in a much, much larger and coordinated system? And this quote really gets to the heart of it. This is the core idea from our source. It suggests that these huge historical timelines, the start of empires, the creation of new calendars, weren't just happy accidents. Instead, they might have been deliberately placed in time, arranged according to some kind of specific, hidden mathematical logic.
Okay, so if history is a locked code, then what's the key? Well, our source material points to a surprisingly familiar place: the very complex calculations that have been used for centuries to figure out the date of Easter.
So, an Easter cycle is basically just a mathematical pattern, a repeating cycle of years that helps you predict when Easter's going to be. But the theory we're digging into today says their real purpose was way, way bigger, that they were actually the building blocks used to construct history itself. And to do that, we need to focus on two numbers that are absolutely critical.
The first number you need to know is 95. This is one of the foundational Easter cycles. Just lock that number in your head for a minute. And the second one is much bigger, 532 years. This is the grand cycle, a much larger, more all-encompassing period. So these two numbers, 95 and 532, these are the tools we're going to use to see if this theory actually holds any water.
All right, let's put these numbers to the test, shall we? We're going to start with the 95-year cycle and see how the source uses it to connect timelines that honestly seem like they have nothing to do with each other.
First up, let's look at two massive empires. You've got the Seleucid Era, which kicked off in 312 BC. Then you have the official start of the Roman Empire, when Octavian became Augustus in 27 BC. The time between these two foundational moments is exactly 285 years. Seems like a random number, right? Well, maybe, but let's check our key.
And here is where it starts to get a little weird. If you take that 95-year cycle and you multiply it by 3, you get 285. Exactly. So is it just a coincidence that the gap between the start of two of history's most powerful empires is a perfect multiple of this ancient cyclical number? Our source suggests, probably not.
Let's look at another example, this time connecting two of the most influential calendars in the entire world. The Julian calendar was introduced way back in 45 BC. The Islamic calendar began over 6 centuries later. We're talking totally different cultures, completely different eras.
The time span between them is 666 years. Now, if we take our 95-year cycle again and multiply it by 7, we get 665 years. We are off by just 1 year over a span of nearly 7 centuries. The source even poses the question, could the date for Caesar's reform have been calculated by working backwards from the start of the Islamic era using this exact cycle? It's a pretty wild thought.
Okay, now we're shifting gears to the really big one, that 532-year grand cycle. And we're going to apply it to something huge, the entire history of Rome itself.
So check this out. Our timeline starts with the legendary founding of Rome, way back in 753 BC. It ends more than 2,000 years later in 1376 AD. This is the year the Pope returned to Rome for good, making it the permanent center of the Catholic Church. That is a massive, massive span of history.
And when we apply our grand cycle, the numbers are just uncanny. The total time elapsed is 2,129 years. If you take our 532-year cycle and multiply it by 4, you get 2,128 years. Again, a difference of just one single year, but this time across more than 2 millennia. The entire history of Rome, from its mythical founding to becoming the papal seat, fits almost perfectly into 4 of these grand cycles.
But this is where it gets really compelling, because if this 2,128-year timeline was designed on purpose, you would expect something really important to happen at a key point, right? So what happened exactly halfway through this thing, right at the midpoint? The answer is the year 312 AD, and the event was the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. This is the legendary battle where Emperor Constantine saw a vision of a cross in the sky, won, and set the entire Roman Empire on the path to becoming Christian. It is, without a doubt, one of the most pivotal moments in all of Western history.
As the source puts it, perfectus timing. Perfect timing. Think about that for a second. The single event that would define Rome's future for the next 1,000 years happened at the exact mathematical center of its grand historical timeline. That's pretty amazing.
So you see these kinds of patterns popping up again and again. The big question is, are we just seeing faces in the clouds here, or is this actual evidence of a deliberate design? Let's just do a quick recap of everything the source has laid out for us.
Okay, so we saw the 95-year cycle connecting the starting points of the Seleucid and Roman empires. We saw it linking the Julian and Islamic calendars. And then, the real showstopper. We saw the massive 532-year cycle that seems to structure the entire history of Rome around a single world-changing moment that happened right smack dab in the middle.
And that really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Is there a hidden mathematical blueprint, a kind of framework that our history was actually written on? Or is this all just a collection of some of the most mind-bending coincidences you've ever heard? The source lays out the numbers, but the final verdict? Well, that's up to you.